So today I'm going to show you guys how to put tint on a rear window of your car. This technique works for any car. The only thing that you should be aware of is if your car's window is curved or not. That's going to change your technique a little bit, but I would suggest researching. I will show you how to tell if it's curved or not, but other than that, I won't be showing you how to do it if it is curved. I've never done that before. Other than that, I will be showing you how to get tint on a rear window. Oh my gosh, I keep saying that. On a rear window of your car. This right here is a 1995 Toyota Corolla, but this technique works for any car, like I said, as long as it's not curved. So, yeah, that's it. So just to add, I do not know 100% for sure if this technique will work or not for a curved glass. That's just the assumption that I got from the research that I've done myself. Just a disclaimer out, just, for anyone who's like, well, actually, you can use this technique for a curved glass. I don't know that for sure. It's not going to come out perfect the first few times that you do it. It's better to just save yourself the stress and the worry of trying to get it perfect and allow yourself to let a few imperfections go by. I say that because you're going to gain a lot more from doing more tintings. You're going to gain a lot more knowledge and just, you're going to have more experience, and it's going to give you an upper hand when you're learning how to do it. Anyway, what you want to first do is you want to get a cotton towel and or a cotton t-shirt that you've cut up, and use some glass cleaner and just kind of get the windows clean, get all the dirt and that line of grime at the top of the window that usually hides in the groove of the window spacers. Get all of it clean and get the inside and outside of it clean. And you want to use a detailing towel after that to kind of buff it and, get it all nice and smooth and shiny. The tint I use is a ceramic based tint. I got it at O'Reilly's for $30. It claims to reduce the heat in the car by 55%. I have not found that to be the case, although it is quite significant, significant enough for me to actually realize that that's why it feels cooler in the car. After you get the windows clean, as you can see, by the way, I had to wait till the next day to continue, but you want to get the window temporarily onto the outside window. And you want the liner facing you, so you use your teeth to separate. You grind your teeth with the material in between your teeth to separate the two sheets, and then you have the liner facing you, and temporarily adhere it to the outside window, and then you're going to cut along the top line with a very sharp razor blade, and get it as close to the top as you can, because this is basically a final cut. So keep that in mind. After you cut along the top, you are going to use a Sharpie to first, while the window is down, go along the sides, left, bottom, right. Really, you just need the left and right, but just out of habit, I tend to go left, bottom, right. And then after you use a Sharpie to get along the edges of that, you want to roll the window back up, and you want to make sure that you keep the top part out of the grooves, because otherwise it'll become creased up, and it'll be such a pain in the butt. So after you get the window up, you're going to redo your lines. Just go over it again, left, bottom, right. And you'll notice at the bottom that they will not be on top of each other. That's okay. That is just because you rolled the window up. And with that in mind, you will hopefully see that the lines on the sides are indeed on top of each other. And this is how you tell if your window is curved or not. If they are on top of each other, that means that they are straight. The window is straight. If they are offset from one another, so just kind of barely missing each other, not quite on top of one another, then that means that your window is curved. And if it is curved, I would not suggest you continue with the steps that I am providing here in this video, only because I'm not sure if you're going to be wasting a bunch of time. I don't know if there's an easier way to do it. And I would definitely recommend researching a little bit more to figure out what you need to do for your particular car. After you figure out if your car is good to go or not, you're going to take the razor blade and you're going to cut along the edges and keep it within 1/18 of an inch. And I would definitely recommend not doing this on the car. The first few times that I learned how to do this, I would take the tint off of the car and use scissors to cut along it. That being said, I have noticed that when it's on the car, I am way more precise with my cut. So keep that in mind. Definitely want to graduate from the scissors to the razor blade when you feel comfortable enough. The bottom, you're going to want to keep within 1/2 of an inch, and make sure that you are cutting from the bottom line, not the top line, otherwise it's going to be cut too short, and you're going to cut within 1/2 of an inch. After that, you want to make sure that the tint is still pretty well adhered to the outside window, and just squeegee it in place if it's kind of come if it's kind of come loose from the adhesion of the tint to the window, and you're going to prepare it to use a heat gun basically. And when you have the heat gun, you want to keep it at a medium to, I would suggest a medium if you've never used a heat gun before. If you have used a heat gun, you could go ahead, you know how to use it. Use a high setting, but if you have never used one or you're uncomfortable with using one, I would definitely recommend doing low or medium. And you're just going to go along the tint. What you're doing right now is you're going to be shrinking the tint with the heat gun, and you don't want to shrink it to the point of warping it. You just want to shrink it slightly. I'm not quite sure how that helps, but it does, and it helps eliminate these things called fingers, which is a phenomenon. Oh my gosh, I cannot say that word at all. It is a thing that happens when there are air bubbles that occur at the edges of the tint when you're trying to do your final application on the inside window, and there are these bubbles that are about the length of a finger, and they are impossible to flatten out. But the kryptonite to that is a heat gun, essentially. So use a heat gun. You want to flatten it out with the squeegee, and then just kind of go over it with the heat gun as you have seen here, and just keep going over the edges in particular, and keep it about 8 inches away from the tint. You don't want it to get too hot, like I said, because you'll end up warping the tint. And after you complete the heat gun step, should only take you about 10 minutes. You're going to take the tint off of the car, and you're going to put it somewhere safe. I would recommend just putting it inside the car, especially if you don't have that many things inside the car. It'll just keep it from getting creased up, and that's definitely what you want to do. After that, I just for good measure, I clean the inside of the window again. Definitely not necessary, but like I said, my OCD tendencies tend to get the best of me. So there I am, cleaning the inside of the window again, and detailing it again. After you have made sure that there is no lint or dust on the inside of the window, you can go ahead and begin. Oh my gosh, am I doing it again? Okay. Anyway, after it's clean, you're going to want to get the application solution that is also sold at O'Reilly's or Walmart, and basically just you want to use as much of the application spray as you have, really, because the more lubricated and the more soapy and greasy, not greasy, but that type of feeling. The more lubricated it is, the more easily it'll slide around, and that'll just help you more in the end. And it will make it so that you're not getting caught up with the stickiness of the tint getting too stuck in one place in the window and causing a bunch of creases. So much application solution as you can use, and just get it all on the window. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just get towards the middle of the window with the tint and squeegee it in place, and leaving the top part and the bottom part squeegee down, not squeegee down yet. And then you're going to go along the top and figure out, I'm sorry. Before you get it onto the window, figure out which side is the liner and which side is the tint. And this time you're going to do the opposite. You're going to have the tint facing you and the liner on the inside. And then what you're going to want to do is separate the tint from the liner just along the top inch. So just solely on the top inch, just separate the tint from the liner and go all along the top edge and get it separated. And as you're separating it, you're going to want to spray the application spray all inside of it. It'll help separate the tint from the liner a lot more easily. And once you have it all separated along the top, then you can proceed to the next step. And this is where keeping it or having it adhered to the middle part comes in handy, because it's not going to be coming off of the window so easily, which becomes a pain. Um, Once you have the liner down at the bottom, you can, what I like to do is if I see any large air bubbles, instead of trying to get it out with the squeegee, I will just peel off the tint and just respray it and just basically redo it. That tends to be the best thing to do. That way you don't end up with some unwanted creases and you can just basically get a do-over. Like you see here, there are no air bubbles occurring, no fingers, really easy to just squeegee down, flatten out, really simple. And it's all because of the heat gun. One thing I'd like to add is that before you get to the last part where you tuck it into the grooves, you want to make sure that you roll the window up and do not cut the bottom until you have rolled the window up. Otherwise, you're going to cut it too short and you're going to end up with a gap at the bottom and you're going to have to redo this whole job over. And after you have rolled the window up, then you can proceed to take off the remainder of the liner. That's when you'll want to go on to the next step, which will basically be just tucking in the tint into the bottom grooves that hold the window in place when you're rolling it up and down. Last tip I will add, try to do this in a shady area. I did not have the opportunity to do it in a shady area. If you can do it in a shady area, because if you're doing it bright in the sunlight, then the application solution will evaporate too quickly and you'll end up with a bunch of dry soap marks in between the tint and the window, and it will drive you insane. All right. What I used is a trim tool, which is a tool that helps you get the panels from under the tabs on your interior. If you notice that you have quite a bit extra on the bottom, you can go ahead and cut and just make sure that it's cut within about a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the window. And then take the trim tool or whatever tool you have accessible and peel the groove away from the window so that you have a space to fit the tint in. And then I just use a card to go all along the bottom edge and just basically just push in the tint and go all along once and then do it again, either with the squeegee or with the trim tool. Basically just making sure that it is flattened out against the bottom and that there's no moisture that's keeping air bubbles in place under the groove of the grooves that hold the window in place. This makes it so that when you do roll the window up and down, you're not getting the tint caught up in the grooves and causing the tint to be separated from the window, because that would just be horrible if you went through all this trouble to get the tint on the window and then you roll the window down once and the tint comes undone. Pretty much after that, you're done, and you just want to get any soap marks that you may have accidentally gotten on the outside tint cleaned off and get it nice and shiny. And you can see the difference between the left and the right side. This is a 5% VLT, which is visible light transmission, which means that it lets 5% of the light through the window or through the tint. And you can see how on the right hand side, you can see how drastic the difference is. So I lied. I do have one more tip for you. Something that really helps me is if I spray the inside part of the window after the tint has been applied. Spray the window and then squeegee to release any more air bubbles. That really helps get the squeegee to glide against the tint without catching it at all. and just makes squeegeeing it so much easier. And that's about it. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. I really enjoyed making it for you. If you have any suggestions onto what kind of videos I should make, please leave a comment below and I would definitely respond to it and do my best to make that video happen. And that's all I got today. Good luck.